Hi there, welcome to ADSR Machine Tutorials. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, get yourself subscribed, youtube.com/ADSR Tuts. So we're kicking off with a brand new website this month, machineskills.com, and also we're going to be running some tutorials, monthly tutorials, 4 tutorials every month. And we're coinciding with the release of Maschine 2 software. So in this first tutorial, I'm going to run over some of the new features in Maschine 2, some of the kind of upgraded features, and it's all quite exciting, some of the new stuff really. So it's going to be all inclusive, the stuff we're kind of going to be doing in these tutorials. So if you're an experienced Maschine software user, or if you're brand new to it, we're going to be doing stuff that's relevant to everyone. So yeah, this Maschine 2.0 software was released at the weekend, and yeah, one of the big new features, I think was quite a big thing for a few people, was the multi-core support. So depending on what kind of computer you've got, it's going to be less CPU hungry now, Maschine. I know Maschine 1 was kind of, I know when I was running it, is like, especially as an AU in Logic, it would make Logic kind of, the CPU would go crazy. So hopefully that's going to be reduced a little bit now. So Maschine 2 has a very similar look and feel to Maschine 1. It just kind of looks a little bit newer, just a little bit nicer really, the graphics and the GUI and stuff like that. So but I mean, Maschine 1 users, you'll be familiar with all of this stuff. The first thing I noticed really was the browser to the left, which was really nice anyway, but they've just kind of not redesigned it, but just, you know, like, say if we've got all our kind of icons up here, all projects, groups, sounds, instruments, effects, samples, but we can actually do this drop down here and we get this kind of nice graphics. So these are all the expansion packs I have, so groups or sounds, you know, or instruments, and just the way that the kind of the browsers and the way they refine your search is just slightly different now. So which is really cool, and I think I do quite a lot of massive and FM8 sound packs, and I think it's kind of more relevant than ever really to start really kind of tagging everything with a metadata. So for all the kind of native instruments libraries, if you want to load something up in massive, this was a search I did before, but you know, we can just go bass, analog bass, monophonic, and yeah, and just pull something up here. Which is really nice just for searching for sounds, just this browser in this way, or samples. You've got all your expansion packs in here. So you know, if we go into pulse work, drums, kick drums, just load up a kick drum. And you've still got this feature which I really like in Maschine. If I load up some kick drum, basic kick drums there, this auto here feature, if I click that, automatically it's going to play back the drum sound. But if you notice as well, it changes it in here. So if you're kind of like, which I think is great when you're searching for the right kind of drum sample in a beat, and you just want to just quick swap some claps or some kick drums or something. That's really nice just for writing and stuff. So that's really cool. You've also got up here NI icon, so the native instruments, or the native instruments libraries and expansion packs and that. And then this icon here is for kind of like your user libraries. And one thing I noticed, which is actually different from Maschine 1, was kind of loading in samples. I went to load in some samples before, and I realized that, say if I'm trying to load in some samples from, like, I want to tag some Sample Magic samples so I can load them up in Maschine, and I go to like SM28 Vintage House samples, kick drums. Once I open the folder, if you notice before, you get this import button here, or this option here. As soon as I open the folder, it's gone. So in order to kind of add samples now and tag them and stuff, I need to add they need to be in a folder, and you have to add the whole folder. So these kick drums here, can import them, and then I can start tagging stuff. So it was Sample Magic Vintage House Pack. So if I click on that add button there, SM, let's put Vintage House, and then in there, you know, I can check that, go up here and just start tagging this. Check the kick option. Okay, let's import all those kicks. So now if I go to sounds and users, SM Vintage House, and I've got all these kick drums in here. Just a cool way. I mean, you know, if you've got a spare couple of hours and you just want to tag all your samples, because then it's just, they come up, it's really nice the way they'll come up in Maschine software. You know, it's worth doing really. So another thing that's got a lot of people excited is the drum synths. So in the kind of control area in Maschine here, we've got a sampler loaded up at the moment. We can go ahead and load up one of these drum synths, and I'm actually going to switch. We can load in just some hits here. I'm actually going to switch to the mixer quickly, just because you get a better graphic of the drum synth in here. So it's just tab to switch to the mixer and back. So in here we get this kind of, you know, we just minimize the mixer. There we go. So this drum synth, which is just, for me, is just massive. I think it's amazing, the sound quality of some of these drum sounds, and just the kind of tweakability of them. I mean, you've got your tune here, and it's actually telling you what note you're playing, so all your kicks are going to be in key straight away. So, and it's quite sensitive, this tune, when you're moving it up and down. But if you hold shift, you can just get it, but you can move it much more and kind of like scroll up and down. It's much more precise, the movements you make on it. And over here, velocity, decay, attack, pitch bend, that's like the pitch modulation. And this is just for the subs, is really analog style, kind of 808 drum really. And you've got, you know, Tronic, Dusty, it's got a really nice character. And some of these kind of these options at the bottom as well, if you notice, let's flip through, you get slightly different kind of parameters to sort of tweak these drums as you go through. So there's a variety of kind of more sort of analog processed electronic sounding sort of drums in there, and then some more maybe, I don't know, live or acoustic sort of sounding. But just the scope, when you listen to some of those samples, and you think once you start layering stuff up and just EQing, you know, the different hits, you could make some amazing kick drums just with a couple of instances of this synth. And if we flip back here, you've also got a snare. So scroll right to the end, you've got a clap, which is really nice. Again, tune. And we've also in here, we've got hi-hat, tom, percussion. So we're going to be kind of delving into these drum synths in a lot more detail in a later tutorial and doing some proper kind of sound design with them, but just kind of a brief kind of just show you that quickly really. So another big new thing was the mixer as well, because Maschine 1 didn't really have like a proper mixer as such. You had levels and kind of aux sends, but it just all seemed a bit sort of fiddly really. But this is like a dedicated mixer, and just having a look at it is actually quite nice. And so the way your kind of sounds are organized, if we add another group here, you can start adding extra groups in here, just clicking that plus button, and we see our new groups in the arrange area. I mean, it's great just for your stuff's kind of automatically bust. You've got this mixer level here, that's your group kind of level here, and then these are the individual sound levels in here. and then you can just flick. This is group C, you know, your mixer group B, individual sound levels. So you know, you can start placing just individual effects in here on, you know, on your kick drum, and then, you know, if you loaded a clap in here and then the bass, and then you can just click to your master and start loading in some effects in the master section. You know, you wanted to add like the solid bus compressor just across, you know, your whole group, you can just sort of like put it in there. And you actually have, I think there was a limit on Maschine 1 on the number of effects you can have, and I mean it's unlimited effects now, Maschine 2. So as long as your computer can handle the processing, you can just load as many effects in here as you want, you know, and unlimited groups now too. So as many groups as you want, which is just, I mean, with the mixer and stuff, it means this is just turning into more of a kind of fully fledged DAW rather than just, you know, a groove writing sort of bit of software that you might have kind of rewired into Logic or Ableton or something. You know, it's almost like you could almost bypass those kind of DAWs now, really, to some extent. And obviously this is only going to improve with the mixer and stuff. So also now the kind of the way the kind of bus sends and stuff are set up now. We're going to look at that quickly. So you can kind of minimize and maximize the mixer with that button there, and then you can highlight this, and you've got the in out options, audio in, MIDI in, and that kind of shows you plugins. I'll go back to that in a second. And then you've got your aux sends as well. So this is the output here, so you can change where your output is being. Currently the output of this sound is being sent to the group master, which is then being sent to the master here, and then we can just double click on this group A one here to get back in here. And so yeah, you can change the routing. You can send channels externally into your kind of like, if you're having running Maschine in a host DAW, you can send them in there. You can have no output, which we'll look at shortly because that's kind of relevant for sidechaining, which is another new feature of Maschine 2. And your aux sends, and you could do aux sends in Maschine 1, but I just found it really fiddly. But in here, if I wanted to set up group B as a reverb send and just have this as a dedicated kind of reverb, put a plate reverb on there, and what I can do in here with this clap, select this. I mean, I've not named stuff properly, but I've put this platinum verb in here and this aux send. And I've got a nice little reverb send going on in there, which is a bit more kind of familiar the way it's set up now with a proper mixer. It's a bit more like the way you do it in Ableton or FL Studio or Logic. So, and you've got pre or post as well. So, you know, pre-fader means you're still going to get the same amount of reverb send regardless of what's going on in here. It means the sound's going to the reverb send before it kind of comes down the mixer channel. So if we go post, sound completely disappears. So yeah, good mixing tool really. You've also got a Q bus now, so you can actually, there's the mute there, so you can also send channels to a Q bus, which will be great for live, you know, just to audition sounds. They're not going to go to the master output, they're going to go to the Q bus for you to audition them before they go to the master output. So yeah, another thing I wanted to just show you quickly, which had me baffled for a bit. I know with like Logic, I like to reorder my sort of effects and stuff sometimes and think, all right, okay, you know, I want to see if we have, as an example, a frequency shifter, and then a reverb, and say a compressor. And you think, actually, I want the compressor to go before the frequency shifter and the reverb in the effects chain. You can't seem to do it down here in the kind of effects area. And by default, your plugins aren't going to show on the mixer channel strip. So the way I realised you can do this, by check that kind of plugins icon, and then it shows you all the plugins you've got loaded on this channel, and then I can just reorder stuff and put that compressor there, move the frequency shifter after the reverb, or whichever way you want to do it. But it's just, in order to rearrange the order of your plugins, you need to kind of check that and kind of start reordering them in there. So you also have in here quite a cool MIDI export option. This button here, what you'll see if we go back to the kind of like control area, this button here, that's for your audio export. So you just click and hold that button, and then basically what it's going to do, it's kind of going to, this loop that we've got in here, it's going to kind of take that as audio. It's almost like bouncing it down, which is great when you're using this in your DAW, because then you can just drag that into your range of Logic, and you know, you're just going to have an audio file. But also the MIDI, click and drag this here, and then you can just, I mean, I'm running Maschine as like standalone at the moment, but if I was running it inside Logic, then I could just go, right, I've made quite a nice bass line MIDI pattern, I can just drag that MIDI straight into the Logic arrange area, put it on another instrument or something, which again is quite a nice feature. Hopefully the integration with kind of like Logic and host DAWs is going to be a bit better, because it's a bit fiddly with Maschine 1. So and that's something we're going to get more kind of deeper into in kind of later tutorials. So there's also an advanced undo option now. We have step undo or take undo. So you know, your default undo is Command or Control Z, which I'm just, if I keep hitting that, I'm just, you know, getting rid of all of the stuff that I'd loaded up. And then redo is Command Shift and Y. But that Command Z for what we know as undo is actually take undo. So step undo is Command Shift and Z, and that's like individual steps. So take undo, if you just made like, if you've made some kind of, I don't know, as an example, record some automation in here. With step undo, if I go Control or Command Shift and Z, you're not going to see much happening, because it's undoing each individual step of that automation. But if I just go normal take undo, Control Z, it just gets rid of it all. So step undo is like each individual kind of like tweak that you've made on something, whereas take undo is just, yeah, a whole kind of set of actions. It's just going to undo them. So that's just something to be aware of, I think, when you're kind of like, you're just using your kind of undo and your Control or Command Z in Maschine 2. So another feature is extended MIDI controls on host automation. So I'm going to be showing you in a later tutorial just how to kind of set up your automate, because basically in Logic, I notice, and kind of like live, the, you know, the automation channels, if you want to start automating stuff in Maschine inside Logic, it's not as straightforward as automating a synth or something. So but it's quite integrated now, so we're going to be looking at that in a later tutorial. And you also now have the option to record MIDI straight into your DAW. So if you just wanted to work in the DAW but using sounds from Maschine and have them triggered in your DAW, then you can do that now. So we're going to be looking at that as well. And another sort of area of the software they've reworked a little bit is the sampler. So you can access the sampler in this kind of group section here. We've got our pattern. To the left of this, we've got the keyboard, and we've got the sampler. So if we go to sound 2 here, load in a sample. Because I've got this pre here checked, it kind of loads it in automatically. So, and you've got all your kind of destructive kind of sampling, so editing down here, you know, kind of cut, copy, silence, fade out, fade in, trunctuate, your selection range. And I notice now the selection range is kind of separate from your play range and your start and end points. So you can overlap your slices now in the sampler, which is another cool feature. So I've got this kind of pre-sliced sample here. I don't want more decay on this first slice, but I still want to keep that second slice as it is, rather than using these kind of forward and backwards arrows. Just go down to the bottom and you get the hand there, and I can drag this over, so now I've got this longer sample for the first slice, but I still retain that. You can also silences in this also. I want to take this first slice here, and you can start just, you know, cutting out parts of a sample, which is really cool. So we're going to get a lot deeper with the sampler and just all of its features, and also look at how we can start recording some samples in here and just manipulating them and just getting a bit deeper with kind of resampling stuff really. So another new feature is the kind of loop options. So if we go back to our loop here, previous Machine 1 software you could only loop scenes really, but now you can just loop, you can select your loop range, and that's defined by this grid here. So if I turn the grid off, and in this kind of grey area here in the arrange area, start moving the loop area, you can just loop over whichever kind of section you want really, and you can have your snap on to 8/16 or off, or, you know, 1 bar. So another new feature which is cool, you've got this in the preferences, default metronome settings. We can change the downbeat or the upbeat sample for the metronome, so that's another new feature. Up here as well, it's more of like a transport bar now here, a bit more familiar with other doors. Turn your metronome on and off there quite easily, and also at the moment it's kind of a bar count. If I control click in here, I just get the time count instead, which is quite cool. So yeah, I think that's most of the new features covered there really. Of course we're going to start getting a lot deeper with some of these kind of things as the tutorials move forward. Any stuff you'd like to see us do, any of these tutorials, get in touch, let us know. Any questions, give us a shout. Make sure you get over to the machineskills.com website. Get yourself subscribed on there so you're notified when the new tutorials are going out live and stuff. And also up on Facebook now, facebook.com/machinetuts. So come and check us out on there. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Alright, cheers. Bye.